So is it the tube model compressor or the single band compressor for you? Two compressors in Adobe Audition. Which one's best for you? We're going to take a look this week. Hello, welcome back to David Talking Tech and Audio. I do it every week here on the channel, and if you've subscribed, that's brilliant. And if you haven't yet, well, now is as good a time as any to do it. The buttons are just down there. Maybe drop me a like as well if you're enjoying these videos. So on this week's Tuesday tutorial, we are going to look at two compressors that you can find in Audition, the single band compressor and the tube modeled compressor. Both are very, very similar. And the great thing about both of these is they show you all the fundamentals of how to use any compressor that you may want to do in the future. They're very, very similar. There's one that I just slightly prefer, and I'll be talking about that a little bit later on in the video. But right now, let's jump over and take a look at these two compressors in action. In this video, we're looking at two compressors, the single band compressor and the tube modeled compressor. They're both native in Audition, and if you're struggling to find them, go into amplitude and compression and you'll find them both there. I've already loaded them into the effects rack. They both do a very similar job. All compressors do a similar job, and that's basically to make loud audio quieter and quieter audio louder. And both of these teach you very simply how to use a compressor. And once you've learned, you can use any compressor basically. I'll show you in a moment why there are two reasons I very slightly prefer this one, the tube model compressor, but we'll come to that in a second. If I just open this up, I've got the preview window open, which if you're looking to do that, it's via this button here. It lets you see in real time what you're doing, so you can see how you're affecting the audio in the waveform view, not in the multi-track. And here are the basic settings for any compressor. -20 threshold, that's the point at which we are using a compressor. Anything above -20 will be affected by this compression. The ratio, that's how much we're reducing the audio by at the output. So this is very gentle, 2:1, so anything at the output that exceeds -20 is being reduced by 50% by 2:1. The attack is how quickly a compressor kicks in. The release is, you've guessed it, how quickly it stops working at the end. And the gain is literally putting in some audio, because by compressing, you're making things generally quieter. So we're just putting a little bit of output gain back in. If I turn this compressor on now, you will see that all these loud parts become quieter and it all becomes much more even. And that is where we would use the output gain. And you'll see then that that gets a little bit fatter, a little bit bigger as we put some gain back into it. And that is the benefit of having this preview window open. So that's how the single band compressor looks. Let's have a look at the tube modeled compressor, and I'll tell you the two reasons I slightly prefer using this. The first is the sound. It's emulating some of the old valve compressors from back in radio days. So it's got a very slightly warmer, richer sound to it. That's marginal, to be honest with you. The main reason I like it is because of this meter here. It lets you see the compressor working, which I really, really love. The settings are exactly the same, -20 for the threshold, output gain you add back in at the end, the ratio we've got at 2:1, attack and release I explained before, if we turn that back on. And you can even look in spectral frequency to see how it's affecting things. If we turn on spectral, you can see here that it's just very slightly affecting all of the audio. So if you want to look at a deeply granular level, you can even turn on spectral frequency display, which is done via this button up here. But again, you can see that we've made everything that bit flatter and that bit quieter, and the output gain you can bring up here. And that is the beauty of compression, it just evens everything out. So the two reasons I prefer using the tube model is that you've got this meter here, which if we turn this back on, you'll see that, I'm just going to turn this down a little bit so it doesn't sound too loud on the audio for this video, but you'll see this meter working here now. And that is part of the reason I love using this compressor, because you've got that meter which lets you see exactly how much compression you're adding in, and also the sound. The choice is yours though, they both do a very similar job. It is just a slightly warmer sound on the tube model compressor over the single band, and you've got this meter, which is the main reason I love it. But all compression works with these basic settings: the threshold, the point at which compression is setting in, the output gain, adding back in a little bit of gain at the end, the ratio, how much you're going to reduce the audio by at the output, attack and release. They will all vary depending on the kind of work that you're doing, but these are the basics of any compressor, and those are the two compressors that are often talked about in Audition. Which one should I use? Comes down to personal preference, but I love this meter. Let me know in the comments which of the two compressors you prefer and favour. Are you going to be using a single band compressor, or like me, do you favour the tube model compressor? I'd love to know what projects you're going to be using on, so make sure to like, comment and subscribe. If you've got a few spare moments, I'd love it if you could pop on over to my website and leave me your email address for an upcoming newsletter. It's talkingtechandaudio.com. You'll find the details in the description. And also, if you fancy a read of me, I blog all the time over on Medium, so you'll find me there if you fancy having a quick read over a cup of coffee. At the end of this video, I'm going to be leaving a link as to how to use, and indeed what the de-essing plugin is all about inside of Audition, so stay watching for that. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining me on this week's Tuesday tutorial, and I will catch you next week for more. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one.